okay.
The power.
There's a little bit of housekeeping first. A town committee meeting recently was Zoom bombed, which was a very unpleasant experience for everybody who was there. So if it happens this time, although Gordon has taken some pretty good prevention measures, Jonathan has the capacity to pause the meeting and also to kick people out. So if we freeze up, be patient and stick with us, and hopefully we can resume the meeting. But we'll all hope that this doesn't happen. Before we start hearing from all the attendees, I just want to talk about two things really briefly. The first thing is how wonderful you all are. When the plan of conservation and development was first being acted on in October of 2017, we had a very big public forum in the school gymnasium. There were several hundred people attending. During one of the breakout sessions, I was talking with people about economic development initiatives, and someone who was a newcomer to town said to me, well, wouldn't that be something the government would do? And I sort of smiled and said, oh, you mean one of our 3 select persons and a handful of town employees? This is a town like no other. And in fact, all the other towns in the Northwest corner are like this. We are these amazing examples of grassroots democracy at work. Cornwall has 14 town boards and commissions and committees, and there's about something like 29 civic organizations in Cornwall. Each and every one of them is manned by volunteers, citizen volunteers, who do all the work for keeping this town as wonderful as it is. So I congratulate all of you and thank you. You deserve to pat yourselves on your shoulders. The other thing I just want to mention is how this plan of conservation and development came about. There may be newcomers who don't actually know or understand. This is a planning document that is required by state statute. Every town has to complete one every 10 years. And the purpose is for citizen input into town planning and town goals. We don't want selectmen running around asking the state for funding for their own particular pet projects. We want it to be citizen driven. And the process entailed the public forum I mentioned previously. There were 4 subcommittees chaired by various members of the Planning and Zoning Commission and 20 citizen volunteers altogether on those 4 subcommittees. They met many times each over the course of a couple of years. And finally, between us all, we created a report and a document with a set of goals and accompanying strategies under 4 different headings. They were economic development, housing, conservation, and youth and cultural resources. The final report was gone over by planning and zoning and fine-tuned through many meetings. Finally, the public hearing was held, some more fine-tuning occurred, and the Planning and Zoning Commission voted the plan into being. That was November 12th, 2019. So that's how we got this plan. And now I'm going to ask Janelle to review what the goals were that the town came up with before we begin.
Great. Thank you, Anna. For those of you, many familiar faces out there, but for those of you I haven't met, I'm Janelle Mullen, Regional Planner with the Northwest Hills Council of Governments and Planning Consultant currently for the town of Cornwall. I began working with the Commission just in January of 2020 to make sure that we are implementing the goals of the POCD. So to be really brief, I'll just bring up my screen and we'll start with, let me start at the beginning. Okay, so Anna reviewed the goals. Let me minimize that.
Perfect.
Perfect. So just in brief, the goals within those categories, so the 4 categories being economic development, housing, natural resources, community, culture, and youth resources. The summary of the goals for economic development is truly to support existing and enable new businesses, to support working from home, to improve internet and cell service, to promote arts, culture, natural resources, to support farm-based businesses and town artists. The next category being housing. The goals of housing, just in brief, really accentuate the need to make and ensure that a housing is affordable in town. And just some of the goals, the details of the goals are increasing the number of affordable housing units, increasing the number of attainable rental units, zoning and permit changes to make it more efficient, and also to encourage energy efficiency and accessibility wherever possible. The next category being natural resources, or theme rather. In brief, the goals involving natural resources include protecting water, air, forests, farmland, wetlands, and wildlife corridors, and to address invasive species, to limit noise, light pollution, to promote sustainable Connecticut and other sustainability and efforts. And then finally, the final category or theme of the plan involves community, cultural, and youth resources. And just to summarize what those goals are, to attract young people and families, along with meeting the needs of older residents, to enhance communication among community groups, much like this exercise this evening, to support volunteer fire department, EMS volunteers, to encourage social service businesses, and to show strong support for the schools, and also to promote multimodal transportation safety. So I will get rid of the screen, but we'll come back to some strategies later.
So I'm going to turn it over to Karen to introduce our other speakers.
Okay, I'm going to start with our first selectman, Mr. Ridgway, who always leads the meeting off because he does his homework and he will recite everything that we tasked him to do. Correct, Gordon?
No, but I'll try. I'll hit the highlights. Anyway, thanks to everybody, and thanks to Anna and Janelle and Karen and the Planning and Zoning Commission. They've been working hard in the last year to come up with strategies to implement some of the town goals. And what's interesting to me, having been at my post for a long time, is there are things you can plan for and there are things that you can't plan for. And certainly I think COVID-19 has had a major impact on the town in a way that wasn't anticipated or couldn't be anticipated in the last year. In some ways it's been very negative as far as restricting travel and ability to do things. In a certain sense also, it has accentuated some of the trends that were in place before that I think in the long run will have a positive impact, and even the short term, an impact on the town. There are more people living here, commuting from work, telecommuting, which was already happening, has gotten to be the normal now. And when people talk about going back to normal, I'm not sure that trend will stop. I think that's going to be here. And in a lot of ways, especially in these small towns, it plays out to a very positive impact. So again, we do the best we can. The selectmen are in charge of superintending the affairs of the town, all sort of the nuts and bolts things that come our way as far as town business. And so we have a variety of things, as people know from watching our meetings come our way. So again, it's been a pleasure to work with the Planning Zoning Commission, and I would, as we are at the start of the 10-year cycle, we haven't done all of the 15 or 20 things we're supposed to do in a year. Because of nothing else, COVID has been a major preoccupation, and has even altered in some ways our decision-making process as far as having town meetings and things like, and meetings like that, and procedures that we rely on in order to make decisions. So I thought I did look through what our tasks are, and I'll go over some of the things we have done. I won't hit the things we haven't done, but again, when the Board of Selectmen, and again, thanks to Marina Kochebe and Priscilla Pavel, we meet almost 30 times a year in special meetings or regular meetings. And again, when we took office as a new board, we set our goals, which in a lot of ways coincided with the goals of the town plan. There are things that we are responsible for all the time, such as emergency services and highways and things that aren't directly as exciting as some of these other topics, but we do maintain the town's function. And I think one of the things we've tried to do as a town, and we've been pretty successful, is one of the goals is have continuity of services, whether it's the school, the transfer station, the highway department. Even though COVID presents its challenges to all those activities, again, park and recreation activities have been curtailed, but there's been more outreach to seniors and vulnerable population to make sure they're all right as we go through this. So again, we looked at some of our top priorities, and I think one has been housing for a long time. And if anything, the escalation in real estate prices and the scarcity of demand has really accentuated that issue. So we have appointed a task force to look at this from a variety of different levels of expertise, and we are meeting regularly. Other towns in the area are doing this, so we hope to incorporate some of their good ideas, because a lot of these things are national trends that play themselves out in Cornwall, but there's also a local flavor because there is no county government in Connecticut. So each one of these towns has its own distinct personality in some ways, has its own way, its own culture, its own way of doing things. And again, we have great hopes that will help with one of the issues that's forefront in our mind if we look at the big picture in Cornwall, because especially when we're reminded in times of emergency, the role of people and our resources that are here, whether they be town officials or volunteers, are very key to meeting the emergency. And granted, the COVID has been a much longer emergency than we've had, but the resources we've been able to gather locally with our personnel are very important. But in order to have those people in town, they have to have a place to live, and their kids should have a place to live. And when they get older, hopefully after serving the town, they don't have to leave town because there's no affordable senior housing or no place they can downsize to. So it's a complicated issue, but we're meeting it head on, and again, have some very good people working on that. Probably the biggest decision that the selectmen are working through for this year in 2021 is the trying to get the West Cornwall wastewater management proposal in form to vote on. We anticipate a summer referendum. We have a work group that's working out a lot of the financial details and the procedural details, but we're optimistic and confident that will come to a vote in the summer. And again, I think one of the things we've noticed in the last year is there's been sort of signs of new growth in West Cornwall, which has been very encouraging. That's that village has sort of lagged behind Cornwall Bridge in some ways as far as having active businesses, but people have have decided to invest in West Cornwall. And I think the vote or the plan to upgrade the septic infrastructure there is really a key component in bringing that village back to its potential, which has huge potential, not just for our town, but being a regional asset. And we've already seen things like the electric bike shop do very well there. And there's been some property transfers in the last 6 months that have brought some entrepreneurs into the space that are looking to expand. So again, the infrastructure there, septic wise, is probably 19th century. So we want to skip the 20th century and go right into the 21st century and try to get something set up there that will work, be practical, and meet that. So that's going to be a top priority to get through to us, to try to keep the momentum going that we've seen down in the village locally. And again, our partner there is the Economic Development Commission, who we work with to try to plug Cornwall in all its attractive aspects to it. We also have been one of the goals of our town plan was to increase communication with the public, and we've done that in a couple of ways. And again, thanks to John Barry, who is our assistant, that we have become somewhat of we've had more social media presence. At least we have an email that goes out to several hundred residences every 2 weeks to tell people what's going on in town events. And we have also sent out, I think at this point, almost 40 letters to residents talking about the COVID and what a good response would be from the townspeople. So we certainly have stepped up our communication with people and hear back and forth on that. And I think part of that is also, a lot of these things are all connected, but by putting something out there, by welcoming people that are new to town, we've also seen some of our newest residents take a very strong role in helping things like the food pantry. So again, we were set up for that, but the work of that is, food insecurity is a national issue, and it's also a local issue. So we were able to meet that with our people, expand our services. We had some IT people who were here from New York that helped us get a great platform together. So we're looking, very positive of that, and thank everybody that has stepped up and whether it's been in donations or actual physical work distributing food to people. Again, that's been a very important aspect of all this. Have to say also, with something that we didn't have a great hand in, but we'll take credit for it, was the revitalization and the reworking of the Cornwall website. I think Rocco Botto especially did a great job. The town has always relied on that, which in my mind was already one of the best websites in the state as far as displaying Cornwall's all its aspects to it, because this is not an obvious town as far as everything that's going on. But again, having a more user-friendly website that Rocco's put a lot of time in, I think really ties a lot of things together for us and makes us more approachable to people that are wondering what is going on there. So again, there's a great accomplishment in communications between the town, the community, and the residents, because often there can be gaps there, but I like to think there's pretty smooth communication, and thanks to them for accommodating when we have messages or whatever to put up. It's boom, within half an hour things are up there ready to go. If people want to receive the selectman's email, you can contact our office and we'll be glad to put you on that. And Marina works hard to get that relevant and important information out every 2 weeks. So again, we have been in communication with the citizens group, and I think Gary Steinkold is here. The other thing on communications as far as improving internet service is very important to the selectmen. And I know there's a citizen group that put out a survey, and we hope to hear back from that, in the next couple of months, I think. So we're going to be working on that as a goal, but that again has had a lot of people volunteer some time on that issue. One other thing that is mentioned in the town plan that we have undertaken is look at the Cornwall Bridge Triangle under the title of complete streets. There's the State Department of Transportation controls the right-of-ways in much of downtown Cornwall Bridges, in addition to the triangle. So they've come up with a plan of how to rework some of that stuff. It's as far as the traffic flows, as far as the egress in, the egresses, the entrances to places, the crosswalks, the stop signs. Quite frankly, there's the response has been a little lukewarm, because I think there's even discussion within DOT branches themselves as far as what they're trying to accomplish there. But I think the planning process, as far as making the town, especially Cornwall Bridge, more attractive to residents, visitors, pedestrians, bicyclists. Again, another thing is we've seen a large increase in bicycles, people using them recreationally and even commuting around the town. So again, that process has just started. Whatever the state came up with is not a set in stone document, but it's a start. So again, when we're trying to get all these things in sequence and really get some things accomplished. And one thing we did get accomplished was we did have a what's called a STEEP grant, comes from the state. We applied to it, and we did enable some restoration of local barns, which is in the town plan, and also a lot of the fresh paint in West Cornwall and Cornwall Bridge that has been applied and makes the area look better, did come from that program. So again, a variety of different subjects there. We're fully engaged, and we'll be glad to answer any questions at the end of the meeting. And again, it's a good place to work. These boards work well together. You don't have to go too far away to find towns where town boards are suing each other. That's not going on here. And in fact, we're accomplishing a lot of things. So anyway, I've talked enough, and thank you all.
All right, Maggie Cooley and Ginny Block, if you would open up the floor to them, Jonathan. I think they're both still here. Maggie? Margaret Cooley? It looks like she is,
Ginny is
There we
still
go.
muted.
Unmute. Hi, everyone.
okay.
Karen, I sent
Yes.
something by mail around noon, hoping that I wouldn't
Yes.
have to speak.
Would you like me to pull it up, or do you have your copy with you? I sent it out to
I
all.
can grab my
meetings on-
copy. Do you want me just to read it then?
Yeah, why don't you just read it for everybody else?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, talk something and I'll go find it because I'm not sure where it is.
Ginny,
I
I've got
actually,
it, Margaret, I've got it in front of me.
so do I. This
Who's-
is Jenny
who-
speaking.
Ginny, well, why don't you go ahead? Save Maggie the trouble.
Okay,
Got it.
so this is what we submitted today. The past year, like no other, has not been a happy one for fans of affordable housing. Although the state recently ramped up the pressure for each town to develop its own affordable housing plan, distinct from the town plan of conservation and development, and to be reviewed every 5 years rather than every 10, the pressures of COVID were stronger. Language from the state went from asking P&Z commissions to encourage in quotes, a wide variety of housing development opportunities to requiring that they provide for the same. The importance of multifamily dwellings in increasing affordability was stressed, and the importance of maintaining the character of a community was sent to the back of the bus. Into this propitious climate screeched the virus, followed by a wave of home buyers seeking a safer spot to sit out the pandemic and put down new roots. According to the Hartford Current, the statewide jump in sales prices from 2019-2020 was 17%, with a 15% hike in the median price from $260,000 to $300,000. Cornwall ranks number 7 out of 169 in Connecticut's towns, with a median sales price leap of 30%, which is 2 times the state's increase. And our median sales price increased to $500,000. This is the real and present background against which the Friends of Affordability are now working. On the bright side, with the help of the Northwest Hills Council of Governments, the town, the town secured a Department of Housing grant to fund a community engagement process, leading to the writing of our town affordable housing plan. A diverse committee is already at work, led by Janelle Mullen, Jocelyn Eyre, and P&Z members. Again, through the Regional Housing Council of Northwest Connecticut, COG, we contracted with Neighborhood Housing Services of Waterbury to receive free vouchers to their online financial education classes aimed at first-time home buyers. The Cornwall Housing Corporation has been given 2 lots for its parcel program by Ginny Potter, a huge step forward considering that she has also absorbed the lion's share of the subdivision and pre-development costs. Because of past family exchanges, Ginny's land did not qualify under the recently adopted second cut regulation passed by the P&Z, but it is certain that this regulation change will make future gifts of 1-acre lots much more attractive to property owners. We hear rumblings of other interested donors and continue to scour the countryside for suitable parcels within our budget. Waiting lists at Kukeman Village and Bonnybrook attest to the continuing need of rentals for both families and seniors in town, while 2 recent renters have become homeowners in the parcel program. We would love to work with P&Z towards regulations permitting a wider scope of multifamily housing, since this is the quickest path to increasing the number of affordable rental units. Incentives could be given for energy efficient design. Cornwall Housing Corporation also encourages steps toward permitting smaller houses and smaller lots, while acknowledging the latter requires very delicate choreography. The biggest obstacle to housing affordability remains the insane cost of engineered septic systems. So any progress with the state on this giant stumbling block would be fabulous. The end.
Maggie, you said that if anybody had any questions, if there's any questions from the commission. Gordon, you have one?
So
Circling
just follow up on this one thing. I think would be really important going forward as we have these meetings is to be able to sort of quantify where the town is at in the last year. It's sometimes it's hard to evaluate change and figure out what is actually going on. So I have talked to Janelle about getting some benchmarks organized for the next time we meet, and maybe even do some analysis of the data that's coming in now, as far as things like housing prices, median age of the community, school populations, those kind of metrics, as well as how many affordable houses were built in the town in the past year, how many accessory apartments were built, what are the trends. Because I think we can meet every year, but I think if we start seeing we want to accomplish something in the next 10 years, we should sort of see, how are we doing? I know as Maggie and Ginny said, there's some very serious headwinds for housing diversity, but I think if we can quantify some of these things, we can make better decisions as a community. So that's something I think we'll work on in the coming years, sort of benchmarking some of these demographics of the town. What is happening? I mean, the assumption is because we're seeing more baby carriages, the town is getting younger, which is great. But what is really going on? Anyway, enough out of me again, but I just thought I'd mention that as I think something that we'll do to sort of quantify where we're going.
Right.
Thanks.
Who's next, Karen?
Janet Carlson, Economic Development Commission. Let me see. Is she
Yeah, I'm unmuted now.
okay?
I was not exactly told what you'd like me to cover, but I'm pretty good talking on my feet, so I can do that.
You got the floor.
I know. What would you like me to cover?
Janet, what we wanted was to have you summarize any progress towards the POCD goals that have been made over the past year.
Okay. So hang on, give me 2 seconds. And I apologize to everybody because I actually was not aware that I would be speaking today. Hang on.
Why don't we move on to someone who is prepared to speak? And Janet, you can use the time to find your stuff and
Yeah, it'll take me,
I think
it'll take me a minute. Let someone else go and I'll be ready.
Yeah,
Sorry about
I
that.
think that's smart.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to conservation. Pat Mulberry from the Cornwall Conservation Commission. And one of our in the third category, Pat Mulberry.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Speaking to Anna's point, what has the Conservation Commission been active in over this past year to move forward goals, specifically in the natural resource
Oh,
conservation development? Two main efforts that we have been pursuing. The first is preparing a proposal that we plan to submit to the Planning and Zoning Commission on a strategy for protecting ridgelines in Cornwall. And we have been looking at how Kent is been doing this and using Kent as a model. And essentially, it's not a plan to prohibit any development on ridgelines, but simply to encourage avoiding the ridgelines. And one of the primary elements that are needed in order to move forward with that is a map of what are the visible ridgelines in our town. And we have started that effort with help from the Housatonic Valley Association, who are putting together maps of zones in town, visible ridgelines. So we are pursuing this, and in the near future would like to make a presentation to Planning and Zoning about this strategy. That's one effort that we're doing. The other effort is actually from the 2010 Plan of Conservation and Development, and that is to create a list of places in town that are unique or special or in some way deserving of note or protection, so that stakeholders, decision makers, and the citizens of Cornwall will have in one document a description and listing of those places that we all recognize deserve some kind of either protection or note as being special. Example, Cream Hill Lake, Cathedral Pines. We've got a long list of them. We held a series of community forums last year to solicit ideas and suggestions from people in each neighborhood of the town. And we've done that. So we have that list, and we are currently looking to create a map that pinpoints these individual locations and places that we want to make people in town aware of their unique characteristics. Hopefully, when P&Z has a proposal for a particular development near or adjacent to one of these locations, can at least know that this place means something special for one reason or another. After we get the hard copy, we're endeavoring to create a live web page where we have the map of Cornwall with all of these locations identified. So when you click on a location, up comes a window that describes the nature of that location, why it's special, and maybe some photographs. So that's a more ambitious document, and we are working on that. Those have been the two most apropos of the plan of conservation and development that the commission has been focusing on. In addition to that, our regular activities are generally educating citizens about the value of natural resources in town. Consistently over time, survey after survey, Cornwallians say the most important thing that we can do is preserve the rural character. So we have been using that as a guidepost in all our efforts. So community outreach, educating citizens about some of the incredible natural resources we have in town and wonderful places. We have been coordinating with other organizations such as the Land Trust in these efforts, and individuals in town. So that's going on. Katie Freigang is a part of the commission and brings with her the issue of sustainable CT, which she will be talking about in a separate conversation, but those efforts are also folded in to the commission's activities and concerns. In addition, we've also welcomed members of the Cream Hill Lake Task Force. Nancy Berry and Heidi Koenig have been participating in our meetings and addressing issues related to Cream Hill Lake specifically, but in general, water bodies in the town. One of the other efforts we're doing has been headed up by Deb Bennett, who is working on riparian restoration efforts. and that is trying to eradicate invasive species that are choking out our native species. Japanese knotweed is one, Oriental bitterweed is another, loosestrife. Debbie has been working with the town crew to alert them to methods and means that limit the spread of these invasives, and with experts in the wider community to educate Cornwallians about how to deal with the invasives. So it's been a busy year for us, though we are looking for expert help. And at one point, Gordon mentioned that Janelle might be able to help us in some of these efforts, specifically ridgeline protection and identifying places of priority protection. So I'm going to be hitting up Janelle to help with that. And lastly, I want to mention that a long-running effort by the commission is to update the Cornwall Natural Resource Inventory. Margie Purnell is helping us with that, and that is moving along slowly but steadily, and we are making progress. So I want to thank the crew, the commissioners, our supporters. Hector Prudhomme comes to every meeting, provides his insights. Have a new member. I want to welcome Sean Quinn, who just joined. So we're kind of excited and looking forward to the new year and working with P&Z, because so many of these issues are interrelated. We want to encourage that collaboration, respect the desires of the townspeople to preserve the rural character, at the same time provide opportunities for development in areas that aren't so sensitive to our really natural resource assets. So thanks a lot.
Thanks.
All right, Janet, are you ready? Janet Carlson?
She's talking.
Yep.
There she is.
I'm ready.
Okay.
So sorry about that. I guess I've just been a little bit swamped. So I didn't realize I was presenting, but I'm ready to go. So we actually, and I'm the chair of the EDC. So anybody who doesn't know me, hi, Janet Carlson. I've chaired EDC for like 1,000 years, I think. It's only 8, actually. So for our part, we actually went right from the P&Z draft, and we actually took our goals from that. So everything that we're doing, we are focusing completely in lockstep with you guys. And in 2020, we did launch a COVID-19 specific EDC website. So those were making available information from the banks or funding or grants or information that was available. We did partner with Civic Lift. So for you, those of you who are not familiar with them, they're actually a local firm that specializes in municipal sites. We were the first one to step up to the plate. So we have gotten all the benefit of being kind of like the first mover. And I couldn't be more pleased with the relationship. Anything that we ask for, we get done and quickly. We then changed over from the COVID focused website over into more of the campaign site. So we launched the Consider Cornwall campaign. So social media campaign was one of the things that we were looking to do. We were super pleased with the results. We had 30,000 people looking at our campaign, which has been terrific. So we were doing one focused on people who are already here. So some people were already in the area. We said, hey, why don't you consider staying here? And for people who were thinking about it in other areas, we opened up an invitation to bring them to our area and, you know, make them aware of what was available for them business-wise, school-wise, lifestyle-wise, and all that kind of stuff. We also added drone footage to the Explore Cornwall site. We tied the site into local schools. So we did partner with the local schools so that they could also feed us content and information. We updated businesses, and in 3 months, we had over 5,000 unique visitors in the spring. We also obtained grants to promote Cornwall Consolidated on social media. We have community interns from both the high school and the local schools, assisting with social media campaign and site updates. We also got a grant from the Northwest Hills Council of Governments. Special thanks to Jocelyn Ayer for helping us with that, to create a community space in the former Pottery Building. So if you have seen the fabulous signs from for the union, you can thank Jocelyn and the team at Northwest COG for that, because they provided those grants. We've continued growing Facebook and Instagram followings, and we launched the speaker series with the Payroll Protection Program Forgiveness that was done by Iron Bank. We'd also hired Advance to assist us in establishing free Wi-Fi zones in Cornwall. We slowed that down a little bit just because there weren't as many people around. So we didn't have such a pressing need. But again, as COVID lifts and people will be coming to visit, we want to make sure to make that available. Our goals for 2021 are also driven by the town plan. So developing and carrying out a buy hire local campaign could not be more important. We did focus on that a bit as COVID was going on, and obviously it hasn't let up, but we have such rich resources around to feed our people, and we have farmers to support, so that's a good partnership. Again, continuing to support the Cornwall website, create a year-round indoor farmers collective. If you have not been to the local, my friends, you are missing out. There are delicious, fabulous things to be had in the local. It's open Friday and Saturday. Libby Mitchell is the director and is doing a fabulous job. We also have interns helping run the store. So if you're looking for meats, some produce, not a ton, but I mean winter vegetables, there are dairy products, and there's a lot of other craft products available. I'm in there every Saturday, to support it, but couldn't be more satisfied with the stuff that's in there. We're supporting Northwest Connect and staying up to date on options that are happening with that. Also supporting the community via the union with the speaker series, and improving connectivity via selling fiber. So we've been busy. The EDC has been partnering with other town entities and doing so successfully. Obviously, any of you who saw the 12 Days of Christmas, that was funded by the EDC, and there were a lot of happy people very safely wandering about West Cornwall and celebrating the season, even though COVID was going on. We had people as far away as Hartford come. I heard from people from Thomaston, like literally all over the place. So it was a wonderful event that cost EDC $800 and brought many, many, many visitors, and brought our town joy too in a time that was difficult. So couldn't be happier with how things are going with EDC. I'm super happy to be partnered with P&Z, and looking forward to just more good stuff happening, even through 2021, and waiting for COVID to move along and quit bothering us. So that's the report from the front lines here.
Thank you, Jan.
Okay.
Bart Jones from the Cornwall Conservation Trust. Bart, are you still with us?
I'm here. I'm
Okay.
still with you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So let's say there's three things. One is recreation. Our trails have had a lot more use this year. We've been maintaining trails, and that's an important part. We had Susan Massino of Trinity College lecture on human health and forests and getting out into the forest. And so maintaining the trails has been an important part of our work. The other thing we've done is to conserve additional land for habitat and water resource. We just closed on the Galucci property. It was owned by 3 hunters and they aged out. It is a keystone to a property that was donated to us, 2 properties, 300 acres, 200 acres from the Dobbs family and 200 acres from the Green family, and abuts Mohawk State Forest. And so in terms of a wildlife corridor, it's really helped to cement that. The other thing that we've done is to work with the Coltsfoot Valley Association. There are a number of people there who are concerned about development there. I asked now, in all cases, for anyone who's thinking of donating property or conserving property, whether they would consider hiving off a piece for affordable housing. So far, I've had no offers, no positive response to that. They say no, they want to do conservation. Looking forward, in the coming year, we expect to continue to develop trails. We have the Furnace Brook property that connects to the Weontonock State Forest, and we expect to develop a trail there. The Matlin property is another property that goes up onto Taradiddle, and we're expecting to do a trail there. So in the coming year, I think we look at trail maintenance and access to nature as our primary goal. And that's basically our report.
Thank you. Okay, Rick Lynn from the Northwest Hills COG.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all, friends and neighbors of Cornwall. I appreciate the opportunity, as always, to spend a little time talking about the Council of Governments. As many of you know, the COG consists of the chief elected officials from 21 member towns in northwestern Connecticut, including the town of Cornwall. The COG meets on a monthly basis to discuss issues in municipal management, oversee various COG planning activities, and also to consider new regional opportunities for improved coordination. Our COG maintains an office in Goshen Center, and our staff consists of 3 planners plus an office manager. I think we're very, very fortunate in having 2 planners in Jocelyn Eyre and Janelle Mullen, who are exceedingly good at what they do, available to serve the towns in the Northwest Hills COG. Each year, our COG develops a work program that generally focuses on 3 major activities, regional planning being one of them, a second one, grant administration and technical assistance, and a third is various shared services activities that we provide in the region. I'd like to spend just a couple of minutes touching on each of those 3 activities to sort of tell you what's new. One of our major responsibilities is preparing regional plans that address issues of intermunicipal importance. So we routinely prepare and update a regional plan of conservation and development, a comprehensive economic development strategy for the region, and also a regional transportation plan. We try to build all of these plans from the local level up. So this is not another layer of bureaucracy that's coming in. We're really trying to essentially cobble together those local plans that have been prepared. We try to smooth out the edges, take advantage of the best ideas that towns are coming up with, and presenting that in a regional plan. This is important not only because it allows us to have basic regional policies with regard to growth management, But since we're required by statute to comment on local plans of conservation and development, as well as the state plan of conservation and development, it's really helpful to have these regional plans so that we have a firm foundation that's been endorsed by the chief elected officials in the region to comment on those plans. A number of years ago, the state plan of conservation and development came out with a regional, with a statewide growth policy map that differed dramatically from our local plans and our regional plan. And we managed to convince the state that they needed to modify that plan, which they did, to be more reflective of what our towns were looking for in this particular region. We do encourage the towns to utilize these regional plans in preparing your town plans. I think it can help save money and also simplify the planning process if you can utilize, for example, the demographic data that we routinely prepare and update for consideration in the regional area. Currently, Janelle from our office is working on updating the natural hazard mitigation plan for the region, including the town of Cornwall. And that plan is important in order for towns to be able to continue to qualify for FEMA funding in the event of a disaster. Another focus area of the COG is grant administration and technical assistance. The COG does pursue grants that are consistent with what the chief elected officials are interested in pursuing on a regional level. We routinely receive a couple $1 million for the region every year from the Department of Transportation to improve selected roads in the regional area. We also receive a few $100,000 from the Department of Emergency Management for emergency management priorities in the area. Also like to mention one of the things that we've been able to do in recent years is to provide more planning technical assistance to member towns. Cornwall has taken particular advantage of this in retaining Jocelyn to help in preparing the town plan of conservation and development, and most recently Janelle in working on various zoning and affordable housing initiatives. So we're really happy and pleased that the COG can help in that regard. And what a great way to try to maintain consistency between local, regional, and state plans is when you have your regional planners working with your local community on your town plan of conservation and development and zoning issues. So we're really pleased about that. COVID certainly has had a big impact on the COG's activities this past year. It's been a priority for all of the COGs, all 9 COGs that exist serving different geographic areas in Connecticut. And we've provided a forum through the monthly meetings and various surveys of COG members with regard to basic issues like, well, are you opening your town hall to the public? Under what parameters and safeguards? Are you going to keep your town hall closed and just provide appointments, as necessary for the town clerk? So we've provided an opportunity for municipal officials to talk with one another to help define what's best for their town based on what other towns are doing. At the regional level, our COG staff has also been involved with serving on the long range committee for COVID recovery. So we are working with others in the Department of Emergency Management and establishing appropriate policies and procedures for identifying unmet needs so that those unmet needs can be addressed. Recently, we did receive a grant from the Economic Development Administration, which is allowing us to try to devote some additional attention to developing plans for fiber to the home broadband service, improving the situation for farmers with regard to marketing their products in response to COVID-19, and also retained a consultant to assist small businesses in taking advantage of the various programs that are available to help them recover from the pandemic. The third, the third area that the COG is involved with is service delivery, and we routinely provide a number of services such as scheduling the household hazardous waste collection days in the area. We offer a prescription assistance program, a fuel bank program, recently a neighbor to neighbor program to again help people in need. And we're also actively involved with our cooperative purchasing program, which can help save towns money by purchasing in bulk. And also our Public Works Equipment Cooperative, where the region has acquired some key pieces of public works equipment that the towns share. And Cornwall takes advantage of all of these programs. You know, again, I think it helps improve local government efficiency and saves taxpayers money. So to conclude, I'd just like to encourage you to take a look at our COG website, northwesthillscog.org, to keep track of the COG's activities. And normally I would say feel free to stop by the COG office anytime to visit with us, but it's kind of tough these days until COVID goes away. But certainly feel free to call. Again, be happy to talk with you about any of the various activities that we're involved with. So thank you again for the chance to talk with you and visit with you this evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm going to switch up one thing. I've asked Heather Deneen. I think she's in the list of folks still here. You see Heather Deneen from Social Services, Cornwall Social Services.
Hey, I'm here. 1 second. There we go. Was there anything
Heather's
in?
not really they're not really listed as a partner, but I thought it was important, especially with everything that's being talked about with COVID, that she be part of the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I guess as I've listened, I think we partner across the board with many of the people who've already spoken. Certainly we're very appreciative to the COG and the management of the prescription assistance program, the fuel program, neighbor to neighbor, has been really helpful to Cornwall families. As Gordon said, you know, I think COVID has brought a lot of struggles, certainly to the people that were living on the brink already, and more have fallen below that line since COVID. And certainly we've seen a huge increase in demand, but at the same time, we've seen a huge increase in generosity and in partnership with people that have long lived in Cornwall who or have had second homes in Cornwall who really stepped up to volunteer and donate. And I think it's really shown what a great community Cornwall is. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them from my perspective, and just very grateful for the continued partnership.
Thank you, Heather. That was wonderful. And the work you do is wonderful.
Oh, well, it's a team effort for sure.
I see Joe Pryor, who from the Board of Finance. Joe Pryor up on the top came in early. Is he still there?
I'm still here. I had to unmute myself. I'm just listening in. I don't have anything to present.
Okay. All right. I saw you come in. I hadn't heard from you, but you were an invited partner, so I thought I would give you a chance because I wasn't sure I caught up with you correctly. So I'm going to take up some of the other ones that are kind of hit and miss on a few things. Phil Hart from the Housatonic River Commission. Phil. It would be under Joyce.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Karen?
Yes.
Oh, you can. Okay. I am Phil Hart. And I think you know that Cornwall is one of 7 member towns on the River Commission. And Barton Jones is the other representative. There are 2 from each town. And we have routinely certain things which are on our agenda. We always talk about the railroad, and we always talk about invasive management. We've actually had Tom Zetterstrom come and talk to us several times. We're always interested in the Cornwall wastewater study and what the development is there. 2 major issues I would like to talk about, but I will make reference briefly to the wild and scenic designation. I think you all know we have been pursuing this for a number of years. And let me just do something here. There we go. That's better. And you may not know that the Housatonic River Commission actually has a committee operating inside the commission. It's called the Housatonic River Coordinating Committee. And they give us updates on information, and they're also supply us with some expertise. And they came on about the time we finished our application to be for scenic and for wild and scenic. And the coordinating committee consists of someone from HVA, actually Mike Jastrzemski, and Northwest Hills COG as a representative, and also the National Park Service has a representative, and Connecticut Deep, as well as a member of the River Commission itself. So we actually have a coordinating committee within the commission. Two big issues that we've had to deal with this year are overcrowding on the river. I think some of you have seen the newspaper articles which concern what happened partially as a result of COVID and people looking for an opportunity to get out and get away. And last summer we had quite an invasion of the very few available river sites. There was so much crowding, there were actually closures down in South Kent and closures in Kent. There were closures up in Falls Village at the Great Falls. And it's become quite an issue. This actually is coupled with the river access issue. The two of them go together, obviously. And one of the goals of the River Commission is to eventually be successful in locating more access points to the Housatonic River. It obviously is a major scenic resource. We're talking about boaters and rafters and fishermen. But as of last year, when the crowding occurred, we were really talking about a lot of people who just wanted to sit by the river, to picnic by the river, to have parties by the river. And it became a serious issue. And we would anticipate that issue will probably be around next year. As a result of the issue of river access, we actually established a river access subcommittee on the River Commission. And the Housatonic River Commission Access Subcommittee is in strong partnership with Mike Jastrzemski and Lindsay Larson from HVA. And they have met several times in November and December to work on a comprehensive approach to working with the town selectmen on river access issues. Cornwall can be proud of the fact we have one excellent access, and that, of course, is down at the Bend, which resulted from an HVA development project at that point. And so, but the actual fact is that I think that's the only real access point that we have. I think you all know we have good access at Housatonic Meadows, but a lot of people really prefer to access the river upriver so that they can flow downriver. So that is a difficult problem which we are working with, and there are some natural controls on the use of the river, and one of those controls would be what we did. We changed regimes on the flow of the river, which we went with a natural flow. And with the natural flow, we won't have the problem with people at least wanting to get in the river when the river is low. We also have the fact that First Light has to provide some maintenance for some of the access points as a part of their FERC relicensing agreement. HRC, rather the HVA, I think some of you know, has a stewardship program in which people are actually hired to go out to some of the river sites and to talk to people, find out where they come from, remind them of what the rules are, to establish some signage, and so on. At the present time, we're really not exactly sure to what extent this problem will be with us next year, but we're assuming that we have to take command of the problem with too many people. And we actually, I think the position of the River Commission is that we're not really talking about limiting the number of people. I mean, there are people who have actually said that, if you've got too many people, the answer is to limit the number of people, to close the gates, et cetera, et cetera. But we actually feel that we should meet the demand with planning and maintenance, with better facilities and with increased number of access points. And so we will be pursuing, in particular, the access points. I might say that of the 7 towns, all 7 towns don't even have an access point. The entire town of North Canaan does not at the present time have a public access point to get on the Housatonic River. Anyway, the demand is there, and we plan on pursuing it, especially with HVA, but also with the selectmen from each of the member towns, of pursuing some kind of a way to deal with the number of people who are coming into our area in order to enjoy this natural resource. And one of the ways to do that will be to increase the number of access points.
Right.
Be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Katie Freigang. For Sustainable CT, where are you, Katie?
Jonathan.
Up at the top?
There we go. Now I'm unmuted. Got it? Right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me. I want to say a couple things since I noticed that energy conservation is still part of the POCD, is that the programs that the state is offering, such as the home energy solutions and the small business associate energy grants and the solar incentives, all those things are still in place. I know it's COVID, so you don't really think about that, but they're all in place. And not only that, Eversource has got energy assistance programs in this time of COVID. So all those things are available to you and you can find them at ctenergyinfo.com. So that's that quick thing. But that, of course, the Energy Task Force has been rolled into Sustainable CT. And Sustainable CT is a program of best practices it's a program of actions, actually, that exhibit best practices, expertise, and resources available to people from Cornwall. It's been developed by by many officials across the state who are concerned about developing resilient towns and communities. We have a website. We have a diagram of our activity in this program on the CCC website that one can see. But even better than that, people can look at the sustainablect.org website, which is constantly updated with other resources, expertise, and practices to help our different committees in town. So far, we've completed many actions and received a bronze award. Everything from developing local food, the LID program, our invasives program, and our POCD. All those things were informed by the resources in Sustainable CT. Currently, we're focusing on projects such as the Complete Streets program, which is sponsored by Sustainable CT. Our NRI is being informed by the SCT program, and we are going to be applying that also towards our internet expansion group and some of our web presence, which would include the web design. So one thing I wanted to mention to close with is that Sustainable CT has a community match fund, which has grants that are particularly helpful to Cornwall type towns, in that it's focused on helping the grassroots efforts. And basically it doesn't, it's a matching grant. And so half of it has to be supplied by people who are behind a project. That's not including town funds. And once they see that, then they will match your fund. This could be applied in many different ways. I guess I won't go into them, but I just would, if anybody has any questions about that, if you've got a project, if you're needing money for your promotional materials or something like that, go ahead and give me a call and we'll see if we can apply this grant to you. Anyway, that's all I've got. And thank you very much.
Katie?
Okay, Rob Lacey, Cornwall Foundation.
There, did that work?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll just say the Cornwall Foundation has been extraordinarily busy for the past 15 months or so. COVID produced a lot of new demands, and we were able to handle them all. It also produced a lot of additional generosity, so we had more money to give out. We have played small roles in some of the projects that have been described here. We provided a little bit of a grant to the union for them to finish up their work. We provided a little bit of grant to help the renovation of the Cornwall website. So we feel like we've stayed on top of it, and we're happy to continue to help out.
Thank you.
I guess let me just add that one of the most satisfying things we were able to do was to intermediate a pretty big contribution to the Food and Fuel Fund, which for some reason could not, the way the donors' money was tied up, it could not go straight to the Food and Fuel Fund, and we were able to get in there and facilitate a very large grant for that purpose.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Gary. Gary,
I am here.
there you are.
Great. All right. Thank you all, and Anna, Karen, Gordon, and the whole team. One hat I wear is Cornwall Association. Quick synopsis: 30 years of building and fostering community. Probably most well known for our annual Newcomers Tea, welcoming newbies to Cornwall. One upcoming event is a Mind Health during COVID in conjunction with the library on February 17th. And a soon to be announced, and I'll leave you with the nugget of the title, the Cornwall Barnyard. It's going to be a townwide participatory art project. Hope that incents you. Returning to moo is exactly what it is. More on that. Returning to POCAD and the other hat I wear, the Cornwall Internet Committee, a group of citizens have come together since last spring to follow through on one of the goals of POCAD, which is enhanced broadband. And while we hope that the cable companies and or the state and or federal will come through with moving forward with fiber optics, which is generally agreed upon as the next generation. Our committee is working on a fallback plan to present to the town of Cornwall in case those don't happen. And the historic experience with the cable companies is they have not stepped forward. Towards that, as you've all have submitted your surveys, the Cornwall Internet Survey that we just are really wrapping up. And hopefully, Gordon, this is good news. We hope to have that done much sooner than originally planned and present it to the town, and then a town hall Zoom meeting to discuss it and hear insights and suggestions and ideas from Cornwallians. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Karen?
I think I only have one person left who I might be putting on the spot, Nancy Berry, who's Cream Hill Lake Association. And I'm not sure she's prepared to speak.
No.
So Jonathan?
No. That was in
No.
the CCC.
Okay. All right. It was all mixed in. So Jonathan, I'd like you to unmute everybody. We do have some.
I have one more thing to read in.
All right.
A letter.
Okay.
I'm done with it. Okay. I picked this letter up today in West Cornwall. I was down at Trinity Retreat Center talking to them and signing off for a new reconstruction of a new building down at Trinity Retreat Center. And Joe and Heidi Rose asked that I read this into the record because they are named as a partner. Dear members of the Cornwall Planning and Zoning Commission, thank you for inviting us to participate. As you probably already know, Trinity Retreat Center has been mostly closed to guests since last March. During the summer of 2020, we had a brief reopening with social distancing and strict guidelines in place, but decided in September to again close out of abundant caution for our staff, guests, and the community whose safety is our top priority. During the closure, our entire staff has continued to be fully paid. Only mission critical staff are reporting to work. We have remained busy despite the closure, as it is the ideal time to tackle landscaping and construction projects that are difficult to coordinate when guests are on site. For example, we installed a new eastern pine floor in the community hall and are currently remodeling the river house for our new priest, Mark Bizzuto Jones, and his wife, Kathy, who will move here this spring. We also continue to offer regular daily prayer services and retreats online via our Facebook and Instagram. In September 2020, we started a frozen meal program and are currently donating meals weekly to Cornwall, Kent, Canaan, Warren, Washington, and Torrington food banks. Our kitchen staff has been absolutely amazing, volunteering to prepare the meals every week for a program that has grown from 40 meals a week to over 300. Wow. It's a project that is meaningful to us and helps us feel more connected to our community. Our goal is to continue the frozen meal program even after we reopen. We cannot wait to reopen to both guests and the local community. The free summer movie series was particularly missed last summer. In the meantime, we love seeing the community use the center's hiking trails that we hope to continue to improve and expand. And this month, February 19th, we are hosting a Red Cross blood drive at the community hall. We are hopeful that we will be able to walk out into the sunlight together with the pandemic behind us later this summer. After journeying through these bewildering times together, the need for collective human engagement, the need to live and love and laugh and cry together will be more powerful than ever. And we have begun taking reservations in limited capacity for retreats the last months of 2021. It is inspiring how West Cornwall is improving and growing, and we are grateful to be a part of it. Sincerely, Heidi and Joe Rose from the Trinity Retreat Center.
Thanks, Karen. Thank you to everybody who presented. I learned so much. There's so much going on in this town. It's very difficult to keep track of it all. And thank you all for contributing. We do have time. I think it would be appropriate to unmute everybody so that people could have a chance to make public comment or ask questions. And I'll ask you to raise your hand and maybe people could help me notice who's raising their hand because they have a comment.
And I just gave everyone the ability to unmute themselves.
Okay, that's fine. There is a calling user. I don't know how they would let us know that they have something to say, but perhaps I'll just give you an opportunity now. Calling user, got any comments or questions for anybody?
I think they're still muted.
Yeah.
I've asked them to unmute. It may just be that they don't have a comment.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Anybody?
Could this meeting be at more like 8 o'clock or so? Because at dinner time, it's, you know, I had to take out for a meal for a second.
Okay, so you're asking that in the future we have a different time frame.
Maybe 7:30 after dinner.
Okay. It's generally a pretty long meeting. I think an hour and a half tonight is a record in terms of being one of the most compact meetings we've had. And all I have to say is thank goodness for that.
Thank you for letting me record it. It will be on the Cornwall website. As soon as
Okay.
I figure out how to post it.
Okay. Well, last chances. Fabulous. Oh, Patrick.
One point I'd like to put out to everybody is regarding affordable housing. I know there's a lot of efforts going on at P&Z with zoning efforts, but I wonder if it wouldn't help to form a committee or a group that is expressly gathering to develop affordable housing, literally develop it as a development corporation. I know in New York City, they have these organizations that are kind of quasi-governmental organizations that are charged with one particular goal. And maybe, I know there's tons of groups and commissions in town, but maybe a group that's specifically charged with developing affordable housing, literally constructing it, financing it, and making it happen. I wonder if that's something that we should consider.
Well, in response to that, we have recently at the Board of Selectmen's request formed an affordable housing planning committee led by Janelle Mullen. And this recommendation is certainly one that we could take under advisement and discuss and pursue if there's any further interest to make the recommendation to the town. So thank you.
Well, I think, Anna, it's important to note there actually are two corporations in town, the Cornwall Housing Corporation and the Cornwall Senior Housing Corporation, that have been in business for about 30 years. They currently manage not only Kugelman Village, but the 16 parcel programs, houses in town. And I have talked to Maggie, and they have received some properties. So they are about to do, hopefully get a fundraising program together, but to make those properties come to fruition. But I think, I mean, that again, there's a lot of silent Cornwall out there. That there are groups and efforts to meet a lot of needs that don't get a lot of publicity, but there are two corporations, and the other one, the Senior Housing Corporation, manages Bonnybrook, and they have leveraged money to make all that happen. So I think we have, the corporations are in place. It's again, one of the biggest holdups or the biggest restrictions is the lack of available land for sale. But anyway, there's a lot of things, but I think that itself, there are two corporations that are staffed, experienced, have access to state and federal programs for financing. So they're set and experienced. So I think we're good on that. It's just a question, again, of the land resources, and yeah, that's the big one.
I'm familiar with both those entities, and I happen to be on the Bonnybrook one, and we are primarily concerned with operating and managing the issues that come before us. What I was suggesting is a group that is specifically dedicated to developing new affordable housing, and maybe even have some powers of financing, bonding, or applying for grants, so that you have a group of people that are specifically focused on developing the affordable housing. And I know Maggie and Ginny are very busy with the issues that they're faced with. And to have a group that's exclusively focused on that might yield more progress.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Sure.
Yeah, so just Patrick, in response to a few of your comments, just to note, the Affordable Housing Task Force, we are underway. We recently met for an introductory meeting. It's a wonderful cross-section of representatives from planning and zoning, along with the Cornwall Housing Corporation. And what it is now that the state is mandating that all towns across Connecticut have an affordable housing plan in place that needs to be updated every 5 years, we can work that consideration. Just as far as I understand your thought of the ongoing development, financing, that portion. So we'll be working with this group to strategize how we can implement more affordable housing in town. So we'll definitely take those into our planning and for further consideration.
That's great, Janelle. Thank you very much. And
No,
I think
thank you.
that group does have the potential to initiate that kind of effort, which I think is different than the planning effort.
Right, it's the building. You want someone to
Exactly.
do the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And financing, of course, is the biggest issue. As you
Right.
mentioned, septic systems are very expensive, but so is the foundation right up to the roof. Everything is so expensive to build. So financing, I think, is really key to that.
Yeah, thank you for your comments.
Anybody else? Everybody ready for a nightcap and then bed? Okay, all right. Thank you again. We look forward to talking to you more.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you, everybody.
Thank you,
Good night.
everybody.
Good night.
Great job.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.